One. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for joining me for this brand new interview. You know, I always do the same intros. I always do the same thing, but this time I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I have someone right here that was in the presence of Mike Tyson in AEW. I've been in the presence of someone that had a great outing against Wardlow on AEW Dark. Of course, you've seen him on AEW television, but you might have seen him in the Maryland wrestling scene when he was competing under, a little promotion over there called Maryland Championship Wrestling, and then he mainly had his stretch over there in the East Coast professional wrestling scene. And of course, shout out to Muscle Man Malcolm for inspiring me to get this interview, because of course, after watching his video, based on not only the documentary but also the interview that he did as well, it inspired me to get a conversation with this gentleman right here, and he's been gracious enough and I've been thankful enough to actually get this interview as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm talking to the Hitman For Hire, Mr. Grimm himself. How are you, my friend?
What's up, man? I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm actually glad that we got this interview started.
Yo, it took so long because, I think you hit me up about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and you said you're going to do it, but then, we decided on a time and a date, but then, you messaged me and I didn't see it, then I messaged you and you didn't see it, and then it was just damn, we're playing, email tag here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, hey, everything works out for a reason, and good thing that works out right now because I'm getting this awesome conversation going. And to start off this conversation, I always start these interviews with a spitball or fireball question because I always like to get the mood in. You know what I mean? Get that good little flair out there. So my question to you to start things off is, with your type of wrestling, it's the power lifter, kind of the athlete, the collegiate athlete. What was it like stepping into the ring and making your AEW Dark debut?
I can definitely say that I was nervous because when for starters, I didn't have a match since March, when I got brought down. So it was the ring rust that I was nervous about.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the fact that when I got there, I wasn't expecting to have a match. I was just thought that I was, there to be an extra help out where I needed, wherever they needed, and, to do that. So I get there, I start looking around, checking out the venue, put my bags down, and, just waiting around, staying out of the way until, somebody, they say, hey, look, we need y'all here. And I just happen to go look on the board. I was like, oh, here's the card for tonight. So I'm looking down, and then I'm like, yo, what the hell? I see my name there, and I'm like, yeah. So it was definitely a shocker for me because, just imagine going somewhere and you're expecting, to, let's say, help backstage, and then you're in front of the cameras, being video recorded for millions of people to see.
Yeah. And of course, that was a very, we've seen you do a lot of matches in AEW Dark, whether that's against Wardlow or I believe there's another couple of competitors that I can't name at this time. But it was just awesome to see how much, what you have done in the independent scene, especially in the Maryland area, to then go on to somewhere big and huge like AEW. Whether that's for, being alongside, like I mentioned before, Mike Tyson during a very, very heated battle with, Mike Tyson and Chris Jericho, or it was just in a singles competition. It's awesome seeing, going from where you came.
Yeah, and I mean, like I tell everybody when I talk about, my journey, my professional wrestling career, from where I started to where I am now, it really means a lot because when I started training, I didn't get trained at a credible school. I didn't get trained by a credible trainer. And, at the, my first couple of months in, I almost got blackballed, from that, from wrestling because of my mentality. Because when I came, into the wrestling world, I was pretty much a street dude.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get into a lot of fights. If somebody said something to me that I didn't like, I was, either fighting them or, about to fight them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't really take a lot of crap from anybody. So I came into the, start training, and, it was like high school all over again. So me, I'm a real dude. Like, I'll tell you, if I have a problem with you, I'll let you know I have a problem with you. I'm not going to say anything behind your back that I won't say towards your face.
Right.
And it was a lot of that going on. So I approached, like some of the guys, like some of the trainers, and I said, yo, dude, like, what's up? Do y'all have an issue with me? Because I keep hearing that, y'all are saying this, this, and this about me. And, if y'all have an issue, like, be real with me. Say it to my face. So they didn't do it. So I heard some stuff again, and I pretty much snapped. And yeah, they didn't, appreciate that too well. But yeah, so like going back to the story, it's just where I started to where I am now, and having an opportunity, because I've wrestled for MLW, I've done stuff with ROH, I've done like extra work with WWE. I was one of the people in the conga line, and now AEW doing a dark match. And back then, almost 7 years ago, actually it was 8 because I was training, like almost 8 years ago, I didn't see none of this happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes to show, it doesn't matter how you start or where you start, because if it's destined to happen, you'll end where you need to be.
Yeah, and we definitely see that, like you mentioned before, with your work in Ring of Honor and of course with your work in MLW. Now, I do want to transition into that aspect about your career, because obviously you had your beginnings when you mentioned about being trained by your trainer and having that incredible training. But when you made that transition to Major League Wrestling, I felt like that was a huge step in your career, early on in your process of becoming Mr. Grimm Hitman for Hire. So can you talk about what MLW meant to you in your career?
So this is like another situation, when it came to like AEW, because I was literally there just to help out. This was, I believe, last year for Mania Week. And I was literally down there to help out, do ring crew, transport, the talent from the hotel to the venue. If they needed coffee or whatever picked up, like I was just there to help.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up picking up Low Key and Ricky Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
And, we vibed for a little bit. We had a lot in common, and it was a good conversation. It's a lot of people out there that have their own opinion on Low Key, but I have nothing negative to say about him. Yeah. So, later on that night, it was, they were going over their match. And, I just finished helping out with ring crew. So I was sitting on the side, like sitting in the stands, waiting for somebody to say they need to help with something else. So him and Ricky are going over their match, and like they start calling Chris. Now, in the wrestling business, nobody really calls me by my first name.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody always calls me Grimm. So they're saying Chris, and I'm just like, not paying attention because, nobody's calls me Chris. So then, like, I look at them and they're looking at me and they're like, Chris. I'm like, it's like, you, Chris, come here. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I hopped in the ring, like, see what they needed. And they said, hey, man, you feel like working a tag match with us tonight? I mean, this is Low Key asking me, do I want to work a tag match with him? I'm like, I mean, did you really have to ask me that? It's like self-explanatory. Like, come on now. Like, so what ended up happening was this. And a lot of the posts that I make when it comes to, like, shows, I always mention card subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is, like, just being in the right place at the right time and having the right name, because it was a guy named Chris Pagan. It was a guy named Chris Pagan who was supposed to be in that match, and he never showed up. So because my name was Chris, like, they didn't really have to do too much, working around it because I already had the name.
Mm-hmm.
So they called me Chris Pagan for that match. And it's funny, if you watch that match on MLW, you have Jim Cornette, he's calling me Chris Pagan, but my gear says Mr. Grimm. And it's like, it's so confusing, but it's funny because, like, even if you go on, I think Cage Match Wrestling or something.com, It has one of my aliases as Chris Pagan. So, like, I'll never live that down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it really meant a lot because it goes to show, like, the stuff that I've learned or that, my mentors have told me about, just going and helping out and, showing face. It does pay off. A lot of times, don't get me wrong, it doesn't.
Right.
But, like, you really can't have the mindset of, like, oh, yeah, because I came here, you can't go there expecting something. You need to go there with the mindset of, hey, this is me networking, like showing face. Maybe something will come up, maybe, but expect something not to come up. Maybe you network and they like you and they'll bring you back for the next show. And that's like always how I've been when I like came to network or just to help out. But this time I ended up being, on TV because like I was there. And if I wasn't there, if I never took that opportunity, I wouldn't have had that, been able to showcase, what I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously during those times, we could tell that Jim Cornette wasn't ready for Mr. Grimm, Hitman for Hire just yet. He was just ready for Chris at that time. But speaking about the Hitman for Hire, I find that the most unique and the most badass nicknames in all of professional wrestling. So can you talk about, what was the mind process behind the Hitman for Hire?
Okay, so when I first started, I had a football gimmick, and I went by the name TNT Boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get booked like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like mainly, it was a football gimmick, and a lot of people had football gimmicks. So it was like kind of a overly used gimmick, and it really wasn't helping me out. So I was looking, to change up my gimmick, and I was trying to find something that people really weren't doing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things was like a hitman, because a lot of people don't know. Like when I first said, I was in the streets, the neighborhood gang that I ran with, I was technically their hitman.
Right.
And it was like, if they had problems with somebody and they needed, like me to fight somebody, like I would be the one that they sent to fight.
Right.
So, it was kind of like, like I said, I was their hitman. So I was trying to find a way to incorporate, my past, my past life, and incorporate it with this life. And then the name Grimm, it was given to me by like when I was like, running with the same neighborhood gang by my best friend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that I use it, he called me Grimm because I like skulls. Like I used to wear like skulls and all kinds of stuff like that. So he like, called me the Grim Reaper, and like instead of calling me Grim Reaper, he just called me Grimm.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up getting killed, and pretty much to pay homage to him, I decided to make that name, the name that he gave me, a part of like my gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean it's like it's kind of like it's a touchy subject, but every single time that I see the name or somebody says it, it's because of him. So it's just trying to pay homage to him and let him know that he's not forgotten at all.
Oh yeah,
but
and that's a great homage to your friend.
Yeah, I mean, stuff happens, but we got to live on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to me actually calling myself the Hitman for Hire, like initially I had just Mr. Grimm on my like page.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy named Louis G. Rich, one day he we were talking about certain things, and he asked, he was like, yo, well, like, have you ever like tried to Google your name? And I was like, no. So I did. And stuff from what is it? Metal, Twisted Metal came up. Like all these different things that wasn't me started popping up.
Okay.
So he was talking to me, and he said, yo, why don't you make your page and put like like your tagline or like an alias or whatever in it, so it'll stand out more for marketing purposes. So, I thought about it and I was like, I'm a hitman. So why don't I just put, the Hitman For Hire, Mr. Grimm there? And, ever since I started doing that, and I started getting booked more and more people would use like the Hitman For Hire, Mr. Grimm, it just kept on accumulating, things on Google. So now if you type in the Hitman For Hire, Mr. Grimm, all of my stuff comes up. So, like, even if you put Mr. Grimm Wrestler, like, you'll see my stuff and No More Twisted Metal stuff comes up,
Right.
and yeah, it's just like, it really helped me with marketing to be able to have a tagline in there and to be able to, stand out and differentiate myself from all the other things that will pop up, under Mr. Grimm.
Well, that's awesome, especially, of course, when you have, your own unique name or your own unique, feel for your presence in professional wrestling. You always have to have something that's going to stand out from the rest. And definitely that having the Hitman For Hire, Mr. Grimm, is something that actually is something, pretty badass. And not only that, it goes from millions of results to just one, and that's being you.
Yep. And that's how it needs to be.
Well, that's awesome. One of the other things that I do want to mention as well is your time during Ring of Honor. I believe that was one of the, again, that was one of your highlights of your career as well. And of course, there's the pattern of you not thinking that you were going to get booked, just being a part of, ring crew or whatever the case may be, but then getting booked on that show or on multiple shows. So can you talk about, being on a worldwide stage known as Ring of Honor, filled with all these talented people that have came from Ring of Honor, like a Seth Rollins, like an Austin Aries, and the list goes on and on.
Well, once again, this was because I chose to do ring crew. Like a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten, was because I was there to be an extra.
Mm-hmm.
And with Ring of Honor, it was pretty much a, like a one-time thing. I went there to help out. Actually, I think I helped out on more than one show.
Mm-hmm.
But I was helping out, and Dalton Castle, he needed help with like making signs, and for his it was actually a pay-per-view.
Mm.
So he needed help like making signs and putting them together and stuff. And I ended up being like one of the boys for that night. So I mean, it was definitely different, but I'm very appreciative because once again, that's an opportunity that I received just from going to help out, to do ring crew and going in not expecting anything. And it kind of sucks because there was a couple of times where I actually had opportunities to wrestle, in like one of the Ring of Honor house shows, but stuff happened and it just didn't go down like that. So yeah, I mean, just got to keep going, rolling with the punches, man.
Absolutely. And of course, throughout your entire career, you've, it's always been, whether it's the smallest moments or the biggest moments, you've had so much in your very young career thus far that, it's only the beginning. And it's awesome that you had so much that you could put on your resume for when you do become a bigger and bigger star as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very blessed, to be in the position that I'm in because, 3 years ago, I was ready to quit and give it up, and I didn't. And, I just kept, pushing forward. And, I believe the next year, has it been 1 or 2 years? I don't know, but, I've done work. I've did a tour in Canada. I've done a tour in Mexico. And I've actually, like, when I was in Mexico, we did a joint show with AAA. So it was like, I had that to put under my resume as well. And if I would have quit, or not, change the football gimmick. If I didn't change that, I wouldn't be where I am today, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, throughout your career as well, it's all about change. It's all about, getting through the process of, struggling beginnings, or, you don't know where your footing is. And of course, at a time where you were like, man, maybe wrestling's not for me. But then, of course, your passion for this sport, this art that we call professional wrestling, continues, and it reminds you to keep going. So it's awesome to see you keep going and keep striving for more.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, it means a lot, for people to point it out, because I've caught in a lot of hell, like even still, with my career, but it always means something because you never know who's watching. Like I had no idea that you knew who I was, and just to be able to, to hear that, you've seen my work, you like my work, and it really means a lot.
Well, I do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So now we're going to go to this part of this interview where we go from the serious topics to the more fun topics. We're going to do this little segment. This is brand new, just for Mr. Grimm. It's going to be 3 roundhouse kick questions. I'm hoping that's going to be the name throughout the next few interviews, which are basically little fun questions that are, kind of like it's either a yes or no, or it could be like, would you rather questions. So the first of the 3 is going to be favorite meal on the road.
It used to be pizza. Like I used to, but now since I've been on my diet, I would have to say my favorite meal on the road would either be like, like some sort of meat and cheese, or those little protein packs from Wawa, which has like the little bagel, the raisin bagel in it with the string cheese, the apple, and the peanut butter and the nuts.
Well, that's awesome. Personally, for me, my favorite go-to snack happens to be, and everybody's going to hate me for this, it's always a good garden salad.
Okay, look, go with or without onions?
I'm not a fan of onion.
Good. All right, we're good. Look, I'm not going to hate you for it.
All right. The second of the 3 questions is, out of all our favorite opponent in the ring.
It's actually a couple, but if I had to say like one favorite, I would probably have to say maybe like Snoop Strikes.
Okay.
From MLW.
Okay, awesome. And then finally, of the fun 3 questions, favorite eating spot in DC.
Favorite eating spot. See, that's the thing. Is like, I don't really eat too much in DC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may live there, but I don't really eat too much in DC.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I gotta think about this one, because if it's in. Okay, you know what? I'll say this. It's a place called BB Bop.
Okay.
And it's basically like the Asian version of Chipotle.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you start off, you either get like the salad, or like you can start off with like the salad, and the next one they have like you can get like sweet potato noodles, bean sprouts, like black beans. They got egg, they got pineapple, they got different kinds of cheese, kale, all kinds of stuff. If you get a chance, look it up. Like, it's amazing.
Well, I will definitely look it up after this interview, definitely. And thank you for the recommendation. But other than that, Mr. Grimm, I really do appreciate you being a part of this interview, getting this conversation going, getting the beginnings of your career, and of course, your current career as it's going and growing to this day. And I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
No, I appreciate you having me. And, us finally, coming to a mutual agreement on what date, what time, because it's been a rough one.
Yeah, well, once again, thank you so much. And for those who don't know, Mr. Grimm, Hitman For Hire, can be seen all over the professional wrestling scene. Look him up on Google. He'll be the first one that will pop up. And make sure you guys follow him on Twitter, which the link will be down in the description below. And of course, I believe you do have an Instagram as well, so that will be in the description as well. And for those, make sure you guys check him out on AEW Dark. He's definitely been up in the scene. He was in the presence of Iron Mike Tyson when he faced off against Jericho as a part of his entourage. And it's been, once again, I know I'm going off on a limb here, but I do appreciate it once again. And make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. I'm horrible at doing that, but hey, I'm going to try it anyway. And until we meet again, thank you so much. And I will see you guys in the next interview. Boom.